Let me take you on a trip to the past. The year is 2017. I was 12 at the time. It also was a time where a lot of younger anime fans were still teenagers, so I really hope you can relate with me. As a 12-year-old, I already was completely obsessed with anime. The first anime I ever watched was Dragon Ball Kai, which aired on Nickelodeon when I was about 4 to 6. I still clearly remember me and my little sister trying to watch it at night, far past our bedtime, only for my dad to come in our shared room to put out the television. It's by elementary school that I really started to get obsessed with anime, thanks to the newly bought tablet we had. By age 10, I already had seen an insane amount of animes, some who I to this day still appreciate a lot and others would prefer to never have laid eyes on. And then I finished elementary and started middle school. In middle school, I began changing my repertoire of animes. Until then, I really only watched the big shonen animes that were out there, having watched the entirety of Fairy Tail, Senseiya, Dragon Ball, Inazuma, Shaman King, Bleach and One Piece, with the last arc available at the time being the Dressrosa arc. I also watched some less known animes that were clearly not meant for people my age, like Heaven's Lost Property and Seikoku no Dragonar. And that's one anime that clearly never should have been watched by a 10-year-old and his little sister. But well, in middle school, I really wanted to have the feeling that I was a big boy, so I began watching Akame ga Kill and Attack on Titan. Honestly, I had a bit of a hard time watching them, because I used to get scared easily by extremely bloody and dark things. And, come on, let's be honest here, are you really gonna tell me you wouldn't be afraid of AOT as a 12-year-old? Like, I still feel shivers when seeing what happened to Marco. Anyways, AOT and Akame ga Kill were the first animes that helped me in acknowledging other animes than my typical shonens. I watched Magi and loved it so much that I used to be up till 3 AM on school days, just to binge it as quickly as possible. Assassination Classroom became one of my all-time favorite animes, with it being the only one that has been able to touch me so much that I was covered in tears when it ended. The Irregular at Magic High School. Wait, why am I mentioning that trash anime? Better question, who are all of you guys? Wait, no, stop there guys, come on, don't, stop. I got addicted to Battle High School animes. Now for you newer anime fans, the post-COVID anime fans I would like to call you, you might not really know what I'm talking about. To summarize how the fantasy high school animes were, well, let's just say that they were the predecessor of the isekai genre. If you still don't really get what I mean by that, well, you seem to have been quite lucky with your choice of anime. Or the people recommending animes to you really care about the quality of what you watch. The Battle High School genre was one that really was used and abused in the early and mid 2010s, before it got succeeded by the isekai genre. And like isekai, I would call it a genre filled with trash and really rare gems. I thought middle school used to really love binging these animes. I remember watching them and thinking about how cool the MCs were and how many girls they were able to pull, and how I really wanted to be like them when high school started. Once again, I would like to thank God for giving me friends on my first year of middle school and making it so I didn't ever try to be like these MCs. Because I know damn well that I would have been miserable if I tried acting like them. And you know, my high school life being mature stuff was pretty chill. Everyone in my year knew me and I was on friendly terms with them all. I even ended up becoming prom king. For the people thinking that I'm patting myself on the back, yes you, I'm talking about you, I just have one thing to say. I for sure am. I just love talking about good things that happened in my life and think we should do more as talking about good things on the internet. Yapping and jokes aside, I watched my fair share of Battle High School animes. Now that I have some level of standards, I can clearly tell that there were a lot of trashy ones that I watched, like Blade Dance, Infinite Stratos, 100, Sky vs Academy, Seikoku no Dragonar, Sajaku no Bahamut, Unlimited Fafnir, Hagure no Aesthetica, Anti-Magic Academy to the 5th Test Platoon, Absolute Duo, Tokyo Revenge, Ariete Scarlet Armor, Demon King Daimao, Akashic Records of Past and Magic Instructor, Class of Heroes. This genre really was the predecessor to Isekai. Gold, the Misfit of Demon King Academy, the Ass-Blades also. What mostly makes these animes kinda trash is how they obviously just are the perfect fantasy for any high school boy. You 90% of the time have your cool MC, which you easily can self-insert into, surrounded by a plethora of girls who all seem to be after his seat. Couple that with the fact that the majority of them begin with the MC being an underdog who secretly has the most broken ability of the verse, and BAM! You got yourself another power fantasy for people to daydream in. There are some of them that I would call trash that I still can enjoy, like Trinity 7, Rokudenashi, Ostrich War, or even Armed Girls Machiavellism. But these aren't really animes that I would recommend to other people. Okay, I lied, I will definitely recommend Trinity 7 to someone. The anime made me think a lot of High School DxD. But yeah, this genre is kinda just filled with hot trash. Some pretty hard to watch, some genuine fun to see, but still trash. At least, that is if you exclude the anime I wanted to talk about.
God, I love this opening!
Chivalry of a Failed Knight, or by its Japanese name Raikiri no Chivalry, is an anime that aired in fall of 2015. And like I told you, it is a battle high school anime. But while most of the other animes of its genre are trashy animes, whether I like them or not, this one to me is nothing less than a gem. The anime is set in a world where people can call up the power of their soul and create magic weapons called devices that have vastly different sets of abilities. The people in question, dubbed Blazers, can study at Hagun Academy where they will further train their Blazer powers. It's in that school that we then follow the story of Ikki, Kurogane and Stella Vermilion. I have multiple reasons as to why I think the anime is that good, which I will go over. But before doing just that, please subscribe, like and leave a comment. We're getting close to hitting 1k subs and monetization, so I would greatly appreciate any support to the channel. Thank you. So what does this anime do that makes it so much better than every other battle high school anime, you might ask? Well, am I happy to tell you that it pretty much does everything better than all of the other animes of its genre. Everything but getting a second season. So shattering realities apart, I really believe that this anime is the best we have to offer in the battle high school anime genre. The characters, story, animation, OST, opening, they all just were on point. If I really were to choose what I love the most about this anime though, then I'd definitely choose between the characters, the opening and the story. Because that opening, my nigga, it slaps. But in terms of characters, I would say I rarely am able to love characters as much as I ended up loving Ikki and Stella. Both of them are great and really lovable characters, but I first would like to put the focus on Ikki, the main character. Kurogane Ikki is a student in Hagun Academy, but what sets him apart from the other students is that he's the ultimate underdog. Now before you start questioning everything I said and click off this video, I need to make something clear. Having a story about an underdog going up the ladder by itself is not bad. It's just that a lot of stories in the isekai and battle high school genre kind of suck when it comes to the execution of said tropes. As a delusional mid and high schooler, I thought it was extremely cool how all of these underdog MCs somehow had the strongest abilities of the world, and at times fantasized about how cool it would be to be like them. But that is where I find fault in it today. These stories are just an easy way to escape reality and fantasize about life. And while I think that escapism is pretty important in our lives, check my other video, some of it just isn't good on a long term. Also, most of the isekai and battle high school MCs just are busted for the sake of it. It really doesn't add anything of substance to the story. So how is Ikki any different from them? Well, he actually is the ultimate underdog. In the world of Chivalry of a Failed Knight, the Blazers create devices which all have abilities called noble arts. They range from going invisible, to manipulating fire, or even having the ability to reopen wounds inflicted. And in that world, Ikki was blessed with quite literally the worst ability in the show. His device Intetsu let him double his physical abilities. That's it. This ability was more than useless, because even the average Blazer could enhance their physical abilities 5 to 6 times just by using their magical power. And for anyone wondering, it is quite literally impossible to increase your magical power as it is set in stone by birth. What makes this situation even worse in the case of Ikki is his family background. Ikki hails from the Kurogane family, a family that for generations were filled with blazers of superior caliber. With his ability and magic power quantity being far worse than even the average blazers, Ikki got totally ostracized by his family. Like, it was so bad that there wasn't even a place for him at family festivities. The poor kid was 5. Ikki was the stain in their prestigious history, so they decided to pretty much erase him and keep him from doing anything blazer related. Even when he was able to enroll into Hagon Academy, his family was still able to pull some strings, holding him back a year and giving him the sole F rank, even though he was able to show results. Ikki in this story quite literally has nothing going for him. He never was given a chance to prove or even believe himself, even as a child. But thankfully, his great-grandfather believed in him and gave him some words of encouragement. This was the first time that someone encouraged Ikki, and he for the first time in his life was given the chance to believe in himself, to believe that he also could become a great blazer. But yeah, Ikki still had one major problem. The fact that his ability and magic power still were lacking. Even with an extensive amount of training, he never would be able to make his magic power grow. And because of his family, he would not even get the chance of learning how to use a sword through a teacher. But that is where Ikki's strongest asset came into play. His unwavering will. After having gone through years of abuse by his family, Ikki was able to leave the house and started training himself. Thankfully, all of the years of hardships, tears, discipline and stubbornness bore fruits, with the creation of 2 skills, his perfect vision and Ito Shura. Ikki is a self-taught swordsman. It's through years of analyzing, studying and replicating hundreds of sword styles that he was able to create his own original techniques. With him studying and getting an understanding of such a vast amount of sword styles, he also unlocked the ability to instinctively understand a certain fighting style he sees. Ikki pretty much became the most skilled martial artist around, being able to read the moves of his opponents and even copying their fighting style after a quick exchange with them. This sounds extremely busted, and while it is, keep in mind that Ikki is the one using it. It's shown multiple times that this absurd skill alone doesn't matter a lot when compared to all of the overwhelming magical and physical abilities in that world. Hell, in the first episode it is shown how that alone isn't nearly enough to reach the level of really strong blazer students. That's why he had to devise something to close the gap. Through years of mental and physical abuse, paired with inhumane training regimes, Ikki somehow was able to conquer his survival instincts. What that meant for him was that he was able to disregard the limit that the brain puts on how much strength he was able to use. By amassing all of his strength and stamina, followed by the usage of his original ability, he was able to create his strongest move, Ito Shura. This noble art lets Ikki multiply his physical abilities by several dozens of times. Another cool thing to note is that he also could shut down some functions of his body, like the hearing or seeing of colors, so he could focus all of the energy that went to these functions somewhere else. Ikki had done it. He finally had something that gave him a chance at grasping the top, at becoming one of the strongest blazers in the world. With this newfound ability and his unbelievable skill, there shouldn't be anything to hold him back from getting to the top now. Yeah, it was not that easy. Ito Shura is a flawed ability. While it gave Ikki the strength needed to challenge the top students of Hagon, it had 2 massive downsides. First off, the time limit. Ito Shura was only usable for 1 singular minute, once a day. In that 1 minute, Ikki pretty much became one of the strongest blazers in the academy, but if he somehow wasn't able to get the job done in that time, it pretty much was game over for him. And the second flaw is the immense toll it took on his body. Yeah, remember those survival instincts and the limitations that our brain puts into our strength? They exist for good reason. In theory, a human can use the full strength of their muscles. The only problem is that our bodies just aren't made to sustain such levels of strength. Using such forces could easily injure joints, muscle tissue, tendons and so on. That is why our brains normally keep us from using more than 30 to 40% of our strength. It's only in extremely dire situations where our survival instincts kick in that the limitations get thrown out of the way, thanks to hormones like adrenaline and endorphins. Anyways, The only thing you really need to remember is that Ikki, by using this ability, pretty much incapacitated himself for the rest of the day. If lucky, he might just need to rest for a whole day, but he on multiple occasions would just end up landing in the hospital. On paper, Itoshura is an extremely strong ability, but the flaws in it makes this ability quite undesirable. There even are a multitude of abilities in the show that rival or straight up overpower this ability, without any of the downsides of it. And if you thought about the possibility of a secret awakening or technique Ikki learns along the way to overcome these flaws, well, it simply doesn't ever happen. Even then, Ikki showed that he had no plans of giving up and kept diligently training, and that to me is the most admirable thing about Ikki. His determination, diligence, stubbornness and discipline, these are all traits that I really look up to, especially the last one. But there is one thing that really makes Ikki different from other shonen MCs. Most shonen MCs also go through an extremely hard time like Ikki did. I can't even tell you how many stories I've watched and read where the main drive was the unwavering will of the MC to achieve all of his dreams. That message is one of the core things that inhabit the shonen spirit, giving everyone that feeling that they can attain their dreams if they just give it their all, like their favorite hero. But that is where I got a bit skeptical recently. Because at some point I started to think that these MCs were able to achieve all of their dreams because they were so much special. Let's take Naruto as an example. At the beginning he was literally the underdog. He had no friends, he had no family, he sucked at jutsus and he was a big troublemaker. Also, everyone in the leaf hated him and mocked him, and I'm just saying, the adults do not deserve Naruto at all. The kids, I can let it slide because they are children, they do not know what they do, but the adults were mocking a little orphan. Naruto, through years of effort and determination, was able to grow stronger and prove himself to everyone. And it's with his effort and determination that he was able to take the position of Hokage. That to me is the most important message of Naruto's story. That the underdog hated by all still could get to the position of the most important and loved person of his village. But I had become quite skeptical about it. Because Naruto, well, he's just extremely special. First off, he's the son of the 4th Hokage, a literal legendary ninja in Konoha. The dude was so skilled that he was feared all over the ninja world. Secondly, he's the 9th Jinchuriki. I know that Kurama made his life hell for the majority of his early life and teenagers, but listen to me. Being the Jinchuriki of the Ninetale Beast still makes you extremely special. And do not even get me started about the fact that Naruto is the literal reincarnation of Ashura, the son of Space Jesus. Like, so many things make Naruto that extremely special. Like, to me he just feels like the chosen one. The same goes for Luffy, who has Conqueror's Haki, which is literally a 1 in a million chance, and spoiler alert, the Gum Gum fruit, which we now know is the Hito no Mi Model Nika, which gave him the powers of the Sun God's Nika. And from my understanding, the Devil Fruit also pretty much has a will of its own when choosing who consumes it. Heck, I'll go further. Deku and Curculus give him the possibility to utilize all of the quirks of the previous One For All users. Even Asta, the literal embodiment of never giving up and putting in effort, was special because of him having no magic and getting chosen by Grimoire that gave him the possibility of using anti-magic. Finally, you have all of these other Isekai and Battle High School MCs who either straight up have the most busted abilities out there, or have abilities that are greatly misunderstood and actually hold immense value. All these people were special. And I started to think that I could never relate to them, because I am not special by any means. It's something that I have never shown friends or family alike, but I have grown quite the doomer mentality of the last couple of years. It's not that I did not understand the underlying messages and lessons of these stories, it's just that I felt like someone like me could never attain those heights. Why even bother trying so hard when you yourself are not gifted or special by any means? Why bother trying so hard if you're average at best when compared to others? That's how I started to think a lot the last year or so. It got even worse when I had to prepare my first university exams, where I got dangerously close to a depression. I just felt like it made no sense to even try so hard. But that is exactly where Ikki comes and just completely shatters this mentality. Frankly, Ikki had it much worse than any average person in our world and his world. Even after being diligent for years and having put thousands of times more effort and time than anyone else in the academy, he still was stuck with an ability that was extremely inconvenient. But even with these disadvantages, even knowing that he was far inferior to pretty much everyone else in this world, that he wasn't anything special, he kept going. When seeing that character and his story, I just could not keep making excuses as to why I could not put effort into anything. That message always has been a cool thing about shonen mangas and anime, but having characters who legitimately have or gain nothing special attain such heights, them achieving their dreams, it held more value to me than when a special person did this. Ikki is the ultimate underdog, but he climbed to the top without ever gaining a special ability, going through all the adversities that life threw on him. Heck, I'll go even further. If anyone else in this world had put as much time, dedication and effort in training themselves as Ikki did, they also would have been at the level of Ikki or even far higher than him. Because at the end of the day, Ikki still is not special, because everyone else can attain the same heights. I think I've said enough to let you understand why I think that Ikki is such a good main character. Moving on, we have the rest of the main cast, and trust me, I will go over it fairly quickly. Starting with the female protagonist of the story, Stella Vermillion. Stella is your average 15-year-old girl, who also happens to be the second princess of the Vermilion Kingdom and also has about 30 times the amount of magical capacity that the average blazer has. She's anything but average or normal. Her status as a princess and the fact that she had so much magical power quickly earned her the title of prodigy and genius. But well, this is something that frustrated her quite a bit. She at first had no control over her abilities, so she had to put in far more effort into controlling it than whatever others could imagine. To further grow her abilities and powers, she went abroad to study in Hagon Academy, where she ended up becoming Ikki's roommate. Ikki's story made her understand that they weren't that different and they became quite close, with her being extremely tsundere until they became a couple. Wait a minute. They became a couple?! One of the things that I've always hated with the majority of shonen animes, let alone isekais and battle high school ones, is how they just really suck at having some decent romance. Like if Goku, the dude who pretty much only thinks of fighting and growing stronger, had a far better and more satisfying romance story than you should start wondering if it's even worth having it in the first place. Most of the romances in these animes suck because of them either trying to go the harem route or just stretch out the development for years, teasing us with some stupid looking perfect accidents or some misunderstanding happening between the characters. For something like a rom-com, it can make sense to stretch it out, as long as it does not go the rent-a-girlfriend route. Disgusting. But it is clear that most authors of the isekai and battle high school genre do not really know how to write a satisfying romance. So Ikki and Stella's love story came as a good surprise to me. Their interactions prior to becoming a couple actually felt like real human interactions. There were no stupid romance tropes going on. The only real trope was Stella being somewhat of a tsundere at first, but even then it was actually pretty enjoyable and fun to watch. The best part of their romance is that it actually matters a lot in the story, with them being a couple bringing actual consequences to them. Anyways, I like Stella a lot. She's one of my favorite female protagonists. Next up is Shizuku. Shizuku is Ikki's little sister. But contrary to the rest of the family, she actually loves Ikki a lot. So much so that she ends up kissing him when they meet again. God, why are you doing this to me? Listen, I'm like any average dude and dislike incest. As someone with a little sister, I do not understand the appeal of it and it grosses me out. But me disliking or not condoning something doesn't mean that said thing can't be at least interesting or intriguing to see on screen. Me thinking that Eren committing a whole genocide is intriguing and good writing does not mean that I condone anything that he did. This also applies to Shizuku, although on a different scale. Shizuku was born talented and powerful, unlike Ikki, and therefore got treated well by her family. So well that she pretty much could do whatever she wanted and began hitting and stealing from other kids. She was like 4 or 5 at the time, and something like this happening isn't uncommon at that age. In situations like these, you normally would have adults reprimand whatever the kid had done. But that never happened with Shizuku. Her being a prodigy of the Kurogane family gave her the privilege of doing messed up things without any consequences. On the off chances that a parent tried to reprimand Shizuku, they themselves would get punished by the Kurogane family. But the majority of the time it won't even get that far, and parents would just bend the knee before Shizuku. And this treatment affected little Shizuku. She started to despise other humans. She just could not trust or like these people who treated her differently because of her power and talent. But due to never getting called out, she continued stealing and hitting others. That was until Ikki slapped some sense into her. Shizuku at the time was unaware of the discrimination that happened with him and cared for Ikki like any normal sibling would. So when he slapped her and told her that what she did was wrong, she became a little conflicted and cried a little. Also, Ikki got beat up because of it, which showed how little they cared for him. But him slapping her made Shizuku happy, knowing that Ikki saw her for who she was and corrected her like normally would be the case for any other unruly kids. Ikki became the one person she loved and trusted the most in the world. So when Ikki left the household without anyone seeming to care about it, she began hating her family. Seeing that they did not even care that he left the household at such a young age made it clear to her that Ikki never was loved by any of the other family members. So she took it upon herself to give Ikki all the love he missed out on in his life. Love of a father, mother, sister, friend, and yes, even of a lover. She would give it all to him. While it is plenty weird that she would decide to go as far to give him the love of a partner, I can understand why she would go as far as this. Finally, we have the last supporting character, Alice. Alice is Shizuku's roommate and she acts more like a voice of reason for everyone in the group. When introduced, Ikki was a little bit confused because she biologically was male, but he still was accepting of her. I thought it was pretty impressive that the story acknowledged the existence of trans people like Alice. The light novel came out in 2013 and the anime in 2015. These were times where talks about trans people weren't really normalized, especially online and in the anime community. I at least never knew of the existence of trans people until like 5 or 6 years ago. Anyways, Alice fully embraces that role of supporting protagonist. She is the one that is there when characters need some important advice, really becoming the big sister of the group. She beyond that is the one we know the least about, not knowing anything of her backstory or her objectives. So that pretty much sums all there is to say about her. Now that I have introduced the most important characters, I can finally talk about what made this anime so special. To the point that I call it the best of its genre. The last 2 episodes. Honestly, the story up to that point isn't really anything that extremely out of the ordinary compared to other animes of its genre. Ikki, who had been held back a year because of his family conspiring with the old direction of Hagun, now had a chance at succeeding, with the arrival of the new headmaster of the academy. But well, on one condition: becoming one of the students to join in the 7-Star Sword Art Festival. It basically was the biggest blazer tournament in Japan. And to be able to represent their academy, he had to win a place through the tournament that Hagun organized. So Ikki's main objective was to prove himself and get a place into the 7-Star Sword Art Festival. He then in the first episode met Stella in a... Trust me, I know it looks extremely bad and you might see some red flags there, but trust me, it gets better. Like, just look at how masterfully Ikki resolves this situation. Are you fucking kidding me? Stella and Ikki become roommates, and after a duel instigated by the director, Ikki wins and Stella becomes his slave. Fuck, this sounds so bad when said out loud. Trust me, it's just cause it's the first couple of episodes. Just ignore all of the red flags, it gets better. The 2 following episodes are the ones that introduce Shizuku and Alice, where they also end up saving people from some terrorists in the mall, giving us one of the coolest dropping from height scenes in anime. Yes, I am glazing. Episode 4 is when the qualification tournament starts, and after Ikki wins, he and Stella become a couple, my nigga. Oh my days, you do not understand what this means to me, bro. Like, all of these other MCs, they cannot do it like him. Oh my god. By episode 5, Ikki already had won several matches, and that made his public image change, with people seeing for what he actually is. But that is not the main focus of the episode. The main focus was actually the relationship between Ikki and Stella, because, well, they didn't really evolve as a couple since that they started dating. But well, unlike all of these stupid dumbass MCs and their love interests, Ikki and Stella actually talk it out and kiss each other by the end of the episode. You do not understand me. Ikki is just that nigga. He's just better. For the rest of the episodes, the plot stays relatively simple, with them resolving an issue with the dojo of this girl whose name I totally forgot, which she later also beats even while she was cheating, and Ikki continuing to climb to the top. There also was this one instance where Ikki and Stella ended up alone in a chalet, half naked. All I'm gonna say is, Ikki's a far better man than me. Like, Stella invited him to get dirty on the spot, like he's a better man than 98% of us. It is not so much that he didn't want to get intimate with Stella because, well, he really wanted to, which makes a lot of sense. But he first wanted her family to acknowledge him and to be able to openly say that he loved her in public. And that at the moment was not the case. But yeah, that level of self-control is something that you definitely won't find in me and a lot of other people. Ikki is just a Chad and extremely responsible, like that's the only thing I can say. But honestly speaking, the anime really wasn't anything extremely out of the ordinary. Everything it did was better than the average of its brethren. The fights were entertaining with great animation, the drama aspects played really well, the OST also was really nice, and the characters all were enjoyable ones. But to say it was the best of the genre would be far too enthusiastic, even for someone like me. Enter episode 11. It starts pretty normally, with Stella winning her 14th match of the tournament. After this, Ikki and Stella walk together to their dorms, reminiscing about the promise they made before the selection matches started, which was them having their rematch at the finals of the 7-star Sword Art tournament. They were just being intimate like any normal couple would, and what first started as a wholesome, lovely moment quickly turned pretty worrying. The next day, Ikki and Go are hanging around like normal until Todotoka, the student council president, gave them a surprise visit. Things happen and the group ends up helping Toka in the orphanage she used to live in. And it's just a nice wholesome moment where everyone bonds together. While the sun is setting, everyone walks back to their respective dorms. But Ikki and Stella's relationship got exposed. Stella rightfully was furious because their love wasn't only exposed to the public, but even framed as an immoral one between the princess of a country and the worst blazer in existence. They did not even have the time to completely understand the situation they were in before a limousine rolls up to them with this big bastard in it. The pig in question is called Akaza, and he is part of the International Magic Knight Federation and somehow was able to get some influence in the morals community of the academy. But more importantly, he is part of a branch family of the Kuroganes and works under Ikki's father. We know for a fact that he acted out of his own to frame Ikki because of the hatred he always harbored for him. So this scandal became the perfect excuse to imprison and interrogate him, thanks to Sir Pig's influence in the moral committee. Stella understood the implications of Ikki getting interrogated and was furious at the unfair treatment her lover went through, only to get stopped by Ikki himself. He knew that there was no escaping this unfair treatment, but more importantly, that this ultimately was his problem. So he just accepted his situation and stepped into the car. And as they went towards the building where he would get interrogated for the following days, the colors started to fade away from Ikki's world. Day 1 of interrogations. Kurogane Ikki got accused of having immoral relationships with Stella Vermilion, second princess of the Vermilion Empire. It was obvious, but what Sir Pig was after was anything that could incriminate Ikki, and he would do his best to get it out of Ikki's mouth, even if he had to use dirty, underhanded methods. But before even starting with the interrogation, Ikki had to make something clear. He and Stella did nothing wrong. Even while getting interrupted multiple times for talking out of turn, he just had to make that one thing clear. He would not let anyone tell them that they were wrong for loving each other. Their love was pure and they had done nothing that could be deemed immoral. Yeah, Ikki being a better man than any of us paid out big time, even though it probably shouldn't be an issue in the first place. The first day of interrogations ended at 2:55 AM. The next one would start at 6 AM. Day 4. Because Ikki still had to somehow participate in the selection matches, it was decided that he had to take them in the building itself, due to him being arrested and in interrogation. When he sees Yuri, one of his teachers, he doesn't even get the right to talk with her. And
let's go ahead!
The match begins. Day 5. Stella, Shizuku, Alice and Kagami of the news club are in the cafeteria. The latest news has been counting Ikki's previous victory, but in an extremely negative light. It was clear that Ikki's name was being dragged through the mud once again, and rumors concerning Ikki and Stella's relationship began making the rounds of the academy. Ikki was suffering and suffered alone, and Stella felt immense guilt, so much so that she began questioning if it would have been better had they never been together. Before she could finish her sentence, she got thrashed by Shizuku, who reminded her that Ikki was suffering because he took their relationship that seriously. And this woke Stella up. Ikki was fighting for her sake, he was keeping up with this atrocious situation for her, so she had to do her best to encourage him. Day 8. Ikki just won his 16th selection match, but the state he was in was deplorable. Completely exhausted, he fell to his knees. This gave Yuri the chance to slip something inside his shirt. 3:46 AM. Ikki returned to his prison cell and finally was able to look at what Yuri gave him. It was crimson red hair. Ikki's eyes light up at the sight of his lover's hair, showing her endless support for him. Day 9. Ikki was convinced that Stella was keeping her promise and therefore had to do the same. He asked permission to meet his father, the head of the Japanese Magic Knight Federation. Thanks to the headmaster's intervention, this was grounded with Ikki's father calling Sir Pig. Day 9. Approximately 3 hours later. Ikki finally is able to meet his father, Kurogane Itsuki. After having left the Kurogane household more than 4 years ago, he finally was about to face his past. And just as Ikki called out to his father, Itsuki started talking to him.
選抜戦勝ち進んでいるそうだな。決して弱い相手ばかりというわけでもなかったと聞く。大したものだ。
Hearing all of that moved Ikki. This was the first time he ever heard his father praise him. The colors were gone from Ikki's world slowly started to come back. Ikki thought that he completely stopped caring about the Kurogane family, but finally understood what he really was after. He started telling his father about how he never gave up on his weak self and kept pushing to become something else than the useless F-rank he was. He still was an F-rank, but each passing day he became stronger to one day reach a level worthy of his father's praise. And he then asked the one thing that always was on his mind. If he would acknowledge him were he to win the 7-star Sword Art Festival.
なるほど。お前はずっと自分が弱いから認められていないと思っていたのだな。だとすればそれは大きな間違いだ。私はお前をちゃんと認めている。だが、才能のない人間に技術を教え込んだところで、教える側にも教えられる側にも無益だ。いや、無益で済むならまだいい。最悪なのは半端な力で半端に結果を出すことだ。今のお前のように。
Ikki's world that finally regained its colors crumbled. Itsuki simply explained that when people like Ikki were meant to be failures end up achieving things, a great flux of overly confident, incompetent people rises, which ends up messing with the order. It was in that manner that Ikki understood that his father never hated him. He just never had any hopes or even thoughts for him. And
何もできないお前は何もするな。私がお前に望むのはそれだけだ。何を泣いている？
僕とこの人は最初から決定的に切れていたんだ。
これは。
For the following days, Ikki was lost in thoughts. He and his father never even were connected outside of their blood relationship. But all Ikki really ever wanted was for his father to acknowledge him, to acknowledge that he wasn't weak. This goal wasn't anything that big, but with his most precious wish now shattered, Ikki became a shell of his former self. With almost no rest, poor nutrition, and his willpower at an all-time low, Ikki had to keep fighting the rest of his plays and matches, while also being subject to hours of interrogation, where the slightest slip-up would mean the end of his blazer life. Day 17. After having won his 19th selection match, and having gone through more than 2 weeks of mental and physical abuse, Ikki got one last message from Akaza. But it was far from being any good news. His final opponent for the selection matches was none other than Todo Toka. If he was to win, he would be freed from the interrogations. If he lost, he would have to give up on becoming a Magic Knight. These were the conditions that the Morals Committee came up with. The fight between the two would take place the following day at 11 AM. Now would be a good time to talk about Todo Toka. Toka is the student council president, but outside of her student council duties, she also is the strongest blazer of Hagun, nicknamed Raikiri. Toka was the previous captain of Hagun at the 7-star Sword Art Festival and ended up being in the top 4 strongest blazers in the nation, only having lost against the 10 winner of the tournament. Ikki, at wit's ends, could do nothing but accept the conditions put onto him. And on that note, episode 11 ends. I had a hard time pinning a single word to what I felt after watching this episode. There were some serious and pretty sad moments up to that point, but none of them were able to make me feel the pain and sadness the characters went through to that level. Ikki's time being present and getting interrogated, it really made me feel shitty. Seeing him, who always moved forward, who always fought even while ridiculed, reduced to this state, it somewhat affected me. I also would like to talk about the color usage, or the lack thereof. Ikki's world mostly consisted of just static shades of grey, white and black, but there still were some vivid colors that got through in that world. The first one being blue. Hope, determination. It showed Ikki's resolve to get over the situation and prove his innocence, to get back to his friends, to get back to Stella. But after a week of mental and physical abuse, that resolve turned yellow. Doubt and exhaustion started to get to Ikki. Thankfully, it did not last long thanks to Stella's little gift. The yellow tints instantly turned blue and he once again was filled with determination. But then comes the cruelest part of the episode. The talk with his father started extremely well, so well that all of the colors that were lost to this situation started coming back. All because his father somewhat praised him. Ikki was bewildered knowing that his father had seen his accomplishments. He who had never gotten any attention or love from his father finally was able to show that he too could grow stronger. He showed that he too could become a great blazer. Ikki realized deep down that he only wanted his father to love and acknowledge him, to make his father feel proud of having him as a son. Ikki's world, who finally got its colors back, turned back into the static grey world with Itsuki's words. And after having heard that he expects Ikki to do nothing in life, the color of red aggressively took place. Despair and sadness took over Ikki's world. His father, the one he worked so hard for, the one person he wanted to get acknowledged by, the one person whose love he longed for the most, that person told him to give up on his dreams and not do anything. He was completely indifferent about Ikki, and this destroyed his sudden rush of hope and determination. Everything went downhill for the next 8 days, only to end with a virtually impossible task: beating Toka, the strongest student in Hagun. Even if he was at his best condition, he probably would not be able to win, so him having to fight her the next day while underfed and completely exhausted mentally and physically, it just was not right. Episode 12, the final episode of the anime. Ikki was at the lowest point possible, so low that he betrayed the most essential part of himself, the hope and belief that he could achieve something with his below average power. Toka is talking on the phone with the director of the orphanage she came from. Everyone was rooting for her to win. Shizuku then enters the room. Toka summoned her to explain that she will still fight Ikki with all her strength. She knew that Ikki was injured, exhausted, and probably at his lowest mentally, but she could never not give it her all when fighting a brave knight with the resolve to beat her. So she asked Shizuku one thing: to tell Ikki to withdraw from the match. The match between Ikki and Toka shall be starting soon. The headmaster of Hagun, Toka sensei, and Nene, another teacher of Hagun, were talking about the upcoming match. That is when Sir Pig makes an appearance once again, taunting all of them. But when the headmaster asks where Ikki was and that the Magic Knight Federation promised to bring by car, Akaza feigned ignorance and told him that Ikki was a big boy and should know what he did. And here we have Ikki, exhausted, a former shell of what he used to be, walking towards the academy. Dirty and injured, he began hallucinating. He thought about his great-grandfather, the greatest blazer and samurai of all time, Kurogane Ryoma, and the words that have been driving him since the start.
悔しいか小僧、自分が最弱だってことが、ならその悔しさを捨てるな。そいつはおめえがまだ諦めてねえ証拠だ。自分ってやつをな。
His mind went on, thinking that his now dead relative might only have been spouting irresponsible words. Because he followed his words, he had a life full of suffering and solitude. A life that was well above his capabilities, a life that could have been easier had he just chosen something that would suit him. The results of following this painful path only was a flawed, trivial technique that no one really ever needed. And now he was on his way to fight the Raikiri, a fight he had no chance of winning. Had he not done enough? He pushed and pushed only to have his deepest wish crushed. He kept fighting because of the words of a man who has long been dead by now. And honestly, he just deserved that break. But even if Ikki lost his original dream, even if he never would be able to make his father proud of him, there still were the many people that he met in Hagun. People he fought, people who respected him, with whom he laughed. But most importantly, there was the one promise he made with Stella. So what if he never would be able to get his father to love him? Stella was able to keep her end of the promise, so why did he even waver? With newfound resolve and determination, Ikki walked to the academy fighting grounds. The final selection match is about to start. TV helicopters are flying all around the now open stadium, recording this final bout for the whole world to see. This was the one condition the Magic Knight Federation imposed on Hagun to let Ikki fight in the academy. Their goal was obvious: the public humiliation of Kurogane Ikki. And through the gates the contestants appeared. Top 4 nationalists, the strongest blazer in Hagun Academy, Todo Toka walked in all her glory to the fighting grounds. On the other side resided Kurogane Ikki, the worst one, weakest blazer and only F rank in Hagun Academy. Dirty, exhausted, all kinds of injured, but with the resolve to show the whole world that he too had what it took to be a contestant in the 7-Star Sword Art Festival. Toka knew of the wounds Ikki had, both physically and mentally, but still couldn't hold her excitement at the thought of fighting him. The same went for Ikki, who then uttered his catchphrase. With his strongest, he will defeat her strongest. And so...
Let's go ahead.
An opening Itoshura. No one understood why Ikki did something that reckless. All but Stella, who instead laughed. Ikki knew that no tricks would work on Toka, and his only chance of winning was to fight her straight on. Naturally, Toka understood what he was planning to do. Dodging once would suffice to guarantee her the win. That was totally out of the question. Close range was her territory, so why would she run away from it? She accepted Ikki's challenge and would face him with the full strength of her Raikiri. Ikki knew that he could only make one decent swing, so he would put all of him into it. At that point it didn't matter that the match was fixed. Who cared about protecting the #1 status in the academy? The only thing that mattered was giving their all against the noble knight right in front of them. In one singular clash of swords, Ikki shattered the Raikiri. He had beaten the strongest blazer of the academy. Bloodied and with clothes torn to shreds, Ikki was just about to pass out. But there still was one thing to do. The pig could not believe what happened and took it upon himself to go finish Ikki, only to get hit out of the way by Stella. Ikki, seeing the face of his best friend and love, finally could relax. The world around them stopped existing, only the two of them mattered. Getting embraced by Stella, Ikki just felt that warmth. A warmth similar to the one his great-grandfather gave him. Warmth that saved him. So Ikki did what I would call the unthinkable.
伝えたいことがあるんだ。
何？
ステラ、僕の家族になってほしい。
私を一気のお嫁さんにしてください。
My boy Ikki proposed to Stella in front of the whole world. Oh my god, you do not understand what this moment means to me. All of these other pubs never, And I mean it, never could do it like him. And that is how one of the most satisfying conclusions to a 12-episode anime came to be. After a week or two in the hospital, Ikki and all of the other representatives got together and it was announced that Ikki would become the team leader. This was accompanied by the cheering of everyone present. For Ikki, someone that only needed to feel content about himself and thought he didn't need the approval of others, it really meant a lot. And the anime ends with Shizuku and Stella bickering like was usual. This was the end to an anime that I hold very dearly to me. Sadly, a season 2 seems like an unachievable dream, like a lot of really promising animes that so many people loved. But if there's one thing that this anime learned to all of us, then it's that as long as you feel that drive or frustration, it isn't over. Anyways, there isn't a lot for me to say about this anime anymore. I at least hope you were able to see what I saw in this story, and that you can understand why I call it the best battle high school anime. Other than that, please leave a like and subscribe. I mainly make anime and video games content, but I also like to delve into topics I feel passionate about. Well, this was enough talking out of me. This was Zartigana. Until next time.